Hi everyone, Ania here. In today's video, I'm going to introduce you to PARSVAKONASANA, side angle pose with the wrap. We're going to approach this pose from three different perspectives. We're going to go from the perspective of the beginner, perspective of those of you guys who are super hyper bendy and can't find this pose challenging enough, and for those of you guys who are pretty strong but the flexibility is lacking. So whenever you're ready, unroll the mat and meet me here. Okay, so before we actually go into the levels, let's start with basic foundation. We're gonna step one foot forward, other foot back. The basic stance in this pose is pretty much the same like in Warrior 2. I'm assuming all of us know what a Warrior 2 pose looks like. The front foot is gonna be facing forward, or it could be spinning out. It depends on the level of your flexibility. I'm gonna go into those details as we go into the levels. The back foot is either sideways or more in, also depends on the level of flexibility. The essential thing about this pose is that stability in this pose comes from the pelvis, and it's not necessarily from just the hip flexors, but actually from the glutes. So you really want to make sure that those glutes are active. The active motion of the glutes is also gonna repositioning your pelvis into like a nice neutral position, and at the same time it's gonna allow the sit bone to drop down, which is gonna give you space in the lower back. So you're not gonna be compressing and crunching in the lower back, looking for that sway back positioning that we all like to do, right? So with that being said, we're gonna come a little bit higher up into the trunk. Guys, we're gonna look for the length in the front, length in the back. So you wanna always remember that SI joint to tailbone rooting down is gonna give you extension in the back of the spine. From there, we're gonna go into the shoulders. So the shoulders usually in Warrior 2 are positioning a little bit differently than into the wrap. As you're going into the wrap, you have to understand it's a chest opener. So it says by itself, we're not going to work the shoulders, we're not going to work the arms. Obviously, the arms are going to be trying to stretch, but we're looking, obviously, we can stretch the arms, but we were looking for is to open the chest, and those pec muscles are going to be essential to work with, whereas the shoulders are going to be spinning internally. So you want to make sure that the shoulders are rotating in order for you to get into the drop safely. Now, the one essential thing that I want to bring your attention to, because we really don't pay attention to it, and I see it in the classes, and I think that was the reason why I decided to make this video, is to please remember about your neck. And what I'm saying this is because lots of times what we do in the wrap is pretty much dropping the head down, rounding the back, getting that one arm that goes underneath, rotating it out, trying to get to the ankle. Maybe we're gonna try to get into the wrap or not, and then the head goes back, and we're rounding the spine, totally forgetting one essential thing. The neck is where everything starts. It's an extension of your spine. After the top of the spine is rounded, the rest of the spine, like domino effect, goes into the bum. So we definitely want to remember about the neck positioning in this pose. And as we're looking for extension, as I said, in the front and the back, we're also going to look for the extension in the neck. And we're going to use those side and the back neck muscles to really get that full expansion in the chest and all four corners of the trunk. So as we're going into the drop, we're going to make sure to we're extending the torso. Chin is in, neck is nice and long. You can look back for a second, but make sure that you're looking back just to bring the chin in towards the sternum. And then from there, you're going to try to lean the chin up towards the ceiling, getting the expansion of the torso. Arms are extending back. We don't have to go into that rotation of the arm, looking where that arm is going to go. We're just going to extend the arms and try to grab the fingers. That's all it takes. And then from here, slowly come up. Okay, let's play with the beginner level of this pose. Okay, my beloved beginners, I'm gonna start with the quick story here. So years back when I was teaching in the studio, I have a student coming up to me admitting that she was a seasonal practitioner with over 30 years of experience. which pretty much meant you don't have to worry about me. I know what I'm doing. Focus on everybody else. So as we started the practice, the first thing what she was doing is to go across the room and pick up a bunch of props, a collection of blocks, straps, bolsters. I'm assuming that if I would have as many gadgets as possible, she would have all those gadgets in front of her mat. So as we were practicing, we're going through the sequence, I decided we're going to challenge the practice a little bit more, going into pose called Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose. For those of you guys who don't know who half moon pose is, it's pretty much balancing on one leg and extending the other leg off the ground. As we were getting into the pose, the first thing what this lady was doing is to stacking her blocks up and trying to figure out how she's going to position her hand in order for her to hop into the pose. So at that point, I'm thinking, oh wow, somebody with so much experience and so much practice needs a little bit challenge, right? So I came up to her and said, why don't we just get rid of those blocks today? The amount of confusion, anger, and fear that was showing, expressing on her face it's been stuck in my head until today. And the only question she asked me is, why should I do it? Why would I change something in my practice when I've been doing the same thing for 30 years? Well, my question exactly, why would you do the same pose the same way for 30 years when the point of your yoga practice or any training is to find the progress, right? We're starting from the fundamentals. We're building muscle memory. We're teaching the body how to recognize the motion, the movement, and then we're trying to challenge it with progressing into something more advanced, right? So for that reason, in today's side angle with the wrap, we're not going to use any props. Take all your gadgets away. No blocks, no straps, no whatever stuff you want to use. It's not necessary because your body is your own tool, and that's the only tool you're going to be using in this practice here now. So let's open your feet wider. Come into the positioning of the warrior two. Now, some of you guys may need to get that foot slightly out. If you feel like your knee is collapsing to the inside or is going to the outside, bulking up, we're going to have to adjust the knee to make sure that the weight is not going into that joint. So there's two ways of doing it. The foot spins out. That's going to bring the knee into more forward and brings it neutrally. Or you can actually engage your glutes. And we have to remember, I mentioned this at the beginning, that we have to engage those glutes. The glutes are the ones that stabilizing the position. So as I'm getting in here is I'm gonna squeeze the right glute, I'm gonna squeeze my left glute, I'm gonna really engage those glutes to make sure that that front hip is gonna shift back, and that's gonna stabilize the knee. Now, obviously, you can use both. You can spin the foot out and you can still engage the glutes. That's gonna work the hip flexors, and it's gonna give you a little bit of extra stretch here in the hips. Okay, now from here, what we're gonna work on is to just lengthen the torso forward. Make sure you're not rounding the back, right? So we're not going into like a contraction and elongation. We're going for the full elongation of the torso here. So from there, make it easier, hook the front elbow. It's my right leg and my right elbow. So hook that front elbow against that inner thigh, and then just lean the torso back, looking for the deep stretch in here. Now pay attention again to the neck. And then from there, maybe bring the right hand against the left hip, maybe straighten the arm, maybe press the hand down to the floor. Doesn't really matter, whatever feels more comfortable, to make sure that you're not rounding the back. You're looking for that full elongation. As a matter of fact, if I lean my torso forward, my front hip is going to automatically shift back. This is what we're going to look for. Now the top arm is going to spin in, and you're just going to bring it behind your back. When you feel comfortable in here, start bending that left elbow. Let me go this way so you can see it better. So as I'm here, I'm going to bring the arm behind me, I'm just gonna bend the elbow and see how far that left hand, the top hand is gonna go. I'm not gonna spin or rotate the shoulder out. If I wanna open, I'm gonna open from just the chest. I'm gonna open just from the left side of my left collarbone. Is gonna try to lift a bit higher up. And then see how far I can go in here. If this is too much, I'm gonna bring the hand behind me and I'm gonna play with right hand going back, left hand reaching for the elbow, or maybe hands are gonna interlace, or maybe even better interlace the fingers and then try to stretch the arms back, still leaning the torso back. We're gonna come up and you can play with the same variation on the other side. And that's it. We don't need to play with getting into the drop right away. It's gonna come, it's gonna happen. Okay, the next one. Okay, this part of the video is for those of you guys, my hypermobile, super flexible, super bendy friends. This pose probably for you is probably one of the easiest and the most comfortable position you can get into. Now, how to find this pose challenging in your case? Let's start from the explanation of what's happening in hypermobile individuals. So most of you guys are super bendy, flexible, but please hope agree with me. The strength is not there, which means that we have to focus approach the pose from totally different perspective, trying to build up a more compact and strong muscles. So how to get into it? We're gonna use the block. I highly recommend you to get as heavy block as you can. Probably the cork one is the safest. Please avoid the wooden blocks. I have bad experience with those ones. So if you have a heavy cork block, please bring it into your mat because we're gonna be using it. So we're gonna go into this pose just like everyone else. Now, the one thing, just like the beginner, just like every single person who does this pose. Now, the most essential thing about you guys, because you are super flexy, is to actually have that back foot more in. That's gonna kind of hug the left hip, the back hip in, and at the same time, it gives you a bit more stability and strength. So you're not really super bendy in here, right? It gives you a bit more compact and a little bit more stuck up positioning. Now, at the same time, the front foot, we're gonna bring the weight into the toes, lift the heel. So this is where we're gonna start building up the strength in the legs. We're gonna build up strong shin, calf, and the quad. At the same time, obviously, we're gonna engage the glutes. Now, I'm gonna go this way so you can see me better. Oh, actually, let me go to the other side. I always make sure to switch the sides. So I'm not just doing one side as I'm teaching. So as we're going into that positioning of the legs, obviously the glutes are squeezing in, torso is engaged. I want you to purposely bring that back foot more in as you can, so that back hip is hugging in. So what we're looking for in here is to making sure that that frontal hip is hugging in to the rib cage. That's gonna contract the stomach muscle, so you're engaging your core. That's at the same time gonna engage the tailbone down, right? So as I'm hugging my hip points towards my frontal ribs, you can even use your fingers to kind of contract in there. Now lift the front heel off the floor. I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna engage the belly muscles, and even though I know that I have to lean the torso back, so this is the challenging part for the body, for the legs and the trunk. Now, if you want to work the hands, obviously one arm is gonna go underneath. You're gonna grab that block. That's why the heavy block. And you're gonna reach with the other arm and trying to extend the arms back. You can change the position of the arms. You can hold it in here, or you can work with flexing the foot and shifting forward. As you're going through the changing of the positioning of the foot, you wanna make sure that you're using your glute and the leg. Obviously, you're gonna use the back leg as well. And that's pretty much it. And you want to make sure, obviously, that you're doing on both sides. Okay. Okay. Last but not least important group is the group of those of you guys who are probably strong, powerful, but the flexibility is not there. So most likely, some of you guys are gonna say, well, I don't wanna practice yoga because my arms are too short. Sounds familiar, right? Anyway, so your arms can be short from weight training or any kind of cardio programs when the muscles are getting shorter and the fascia is getting tighter and stiffer. I highly recommend to use the strap. This is like a tennis racket, is extension of the arm. Strap is extension of your arm in yoga. So let's start with stepping your feet apart. So for you guys, I highly recommend to spin the back foot out. And the reason why I recommend to spin the foot out is because that's gonna work your hip flexor. I bet that if you are a runner, this hip flexor is already tight. So hip flexor, IT band, and inner thigh. The front foot could be in a front position or slightly out. You can actually do both feet splitting in the opposite direction. That's gonna work the hip flexors even more. Other thing, the strap can go slightly on the thigh. We're not gonna go with strap at this point now. So as we're getting into the side angle, we're gonna just work with the torso elongating. Now, the one important thing that I've noticed also about those of you guys who do weights is that your shoulders are rotating in. So you already have that internal rotation, but what we want to work on is to opening the chest and lengthen the torso. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna lengthen the torso forward. We're gonna bring one hand down to the floor. So I have left foot in front and the left hand is gonna go down to the floor, but my left tricep is gonna press against the knee so I can lean my torso. Now my top arm is gonna reach up, spin the shoulder in. Now I'm just gonna relax that hand behind my back. And as I'm relaxing my hand behind my back, I wanna make sure I'm bending that elbow. So I'm actually, let me go this way. I'm actually feeling like I'm on a stretch around my right collarbone. I wanna open my right part of the chest so that hand can slide down. Now from here, I'm gonna use the engagement of my very strong legs and glutes so I can lean my torso a little bit up and bring my left hand, that hand that is on the floor, behind me. Now I'm gonna interlace my fingers, bend my elbows. I'm gonna try to spread the collarbones as much as I can and straighten the arms. I'm gonna stay here for a couple of breaths and then I'm gonna rebend it. If you want, you can come back, come up and go to the other side, do the same thing. We're just gonna continue on this side. Now you can either interlace the fingers and straighten the arms, pull the shoulders back, or you can bend the elbows and try to bring your hands against the lower back. Now from here, you're gonna unlace the fingers. So if you're straightening your arms, bend the elbows. And then from here, start crawling your hands to the opposite elbow. So you're coming into like an elbows clasp behind your back. Spread the collarbones, open your chest, stay here for 5 breaths. Then you're gonna come up and repeat it on the other side. So this is just the beginning of opening your chest for actual wrap. Okay, so you can go to the other side. I'm gonna continue with the sequence so we can get into the full position. Okay, now from here, so we have elbows clasped. We can keep the top elbow, top arm the way it is. We're gonna come back with the bottom hand again down to the floor to the inside. Now, if you can, reach with that top hand for the strap. Now, the bottom hand is gonna just extend towards the back leg. So you wanna purposely reach with the right hand, in my case, towards the left hip. Now we're gonna lean your torso back, lots of stretch in the lower back. And you're gonna flip that right hand and bring it behind your left leg. So the hand was in the front of the leg, now it's going on the back of the leg. Now, remember we were clasping the elbows? You're gonna be looking for exactly the same action. You're gonna start bending the right elbow, try to grab the strap. And the idea is to walk your hands as close towards each other as you can, to maybe interlacing the fingers, or just having the idea of the elbows bent. So eventually you can look like you did with those elbows clasped. So elbows clasped, elbows bent, elbows bent, elbows bent. Now, again, remember about the neck, not looking back, not rounding the spine. If you want to extra stretch, this is pretty much kind of like a nerve flossing here. You want to turn the chin facing up. And obviously stay here for a couple of breaths. Ready, sit down. Come up. Burns the legs a little bit, but that's what's exactly about in this pose. So that's all for all of you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you on the